Hi, everyone. Welcome back. We're going to get started, and I'd love to see everyone's beautiful faces on video if you'd like to join us. Welcome, welcome. We're going to get started. Do I have everyone back? Awesome. Love seeing these faces. Thank you. Beautiful. All righty. So next up, we have Selena Jackson. Selena Jackson has worked in the tech industry for the past 10 years and is currently focused on delivering cloud services to customers based in the UK. She joined Google as an individual contributor 5 years ago, and since that time has become certified cloud architect and data engineer, and transitioned from individual contributor to manager. Alongside her work, she's passionate about promoting the inclusion of women in tech through mentorship and coaching of women and our allies. So Selena today is going to be talking about the transition from individual contributor to manager. And I'd love to pass it over to you, Selena.
Thank you very much. Hello, everyone. And thank you so much to the organisers for inviting me to speak with you today. I'm just going to test the screen share. Hopefully No, unfortunately, Kayla, it's not working for me.
Make you host.
Thank you.
You should be good to do that now.
No, let me try on this screen here. Okay, now we're good.
Beautiful.
Hopefully this is working okay for everyone.
Looks good.
Brilliant, thank you. So as I said, thank you so much, the hosts, for inviting me to speak to you today. And today I'm going to talk about courage to create your career move into leadership. As I was already introduced, my name is Selena Jackson and my pronouns are she and her. I currently work in the Google Cloud team, specifically within professional services. So our role is deploying Google Cloud Platform services to our largest customers. And I am native British, born and bred, so very privileged to be invited to join you all in Canada today. I work in the UK, currently working in London, but I have worked in other regions across Europe throughout my Google career. I'm also a new mum. I had my baby a year ago, so I'm recently returned from maternity leave and currently trying to work out how you manage remotely in a scenario where we've been working from home for a year at Google, and we expect that we might work from home for the rest of this year. Today, I'd love to talk to you a little bit about how I think you could go about making the move from individual contributor to manager or leader in your organization. But I'd love for you to ask questions of me as well. So as I saw you did with Svetlana earlier, please feel free to add your questions into the box, and I'll leave time at the end to make sure that we get to cover some of those. All right, so you've made the decision that you want to be like one of these strong leaders. They are the pinnacle of their field, the top of politics or tech, or leading the way for women in leadership. Or perhaps more realistically, you are currently working within a team and you would love to be leader of that team. But the problem and the challenge with all of these things is it seems like a big black box. I just have no idea what I'm doing. I don't know how I make the move from where I am today to being a manager or being a leader in my organization. And I use the words manager and leader interchangeably here. I know there's a lot of theory about what makes a good manager, what makes a good leader. Ultimately, I'm talking here about being a leader of people within your organization, someone who manages the team and manages people. So today I'm going to talk to you about how I made the move from individual contributor to a leader at Google. And I'm speaking here in a personal capacity, though I work for Google. I'm not speaking on behalf of Google. I'm speaking about what worked for me and what I think might work for you. Though, of course, disclaimer, I have absolutely no guarantees. This is proven across a few of us in the team who use this method to make our move from individual contributor into being a manager in our teams. I do want to start by saying, though, that career is not something that happens in a linear way. It doesn't just start at the bottom left and then end up in the top right when you're suddenly Sheryl Sandberg and you're COO of Facebook. The reality of our careers is they are up and down. And nothing proved this more to me than a recent exercise that I did as part of a workshop at Google. And so this workshop was called Tell Your Story. And the idea is that we looked back on our career history over the last 10 years, and we plotted on a map, what did our professional career look like in terms of highs and lows? And then we plotted, what does our personal life look like in terms of highs and lows during that period? And inevitably, we all saw that career and personal life really go hand in hand. And more than ever, we're seeing that work life and home life are something that need to be negotiated alongside one another. The reality is that careers go up and down, our personal lives go up and down. Those two things influence one another. There are times where you need to lean in, and there are times where you think, oof, I'm going to take a step back here, I'm going to reset and refresh and see where I want to go. And I knew this intuitively, but I'd never seen it written on a piece of paper in the way that I did when I did this exercise. And so when I plotted my time from starting work as a graduate in IBM to my time now at Google, I saw there have been many ups and downs. And ultimately, it doesn't matter. Ultimately, you're setting your sights on goals, and they move and they incrementally change, and you might flex along the way, and there will be ups and there will be downs. It's unlikely that you're going to be an individual contributor one day and COO of Facebook the next day. And that's just the reality that we work in. So everything I say today, think about realistic timelines for you as an individual based on where you are now. And don't be disheartened if you sometimes feel like your career is stuck a little bit, or it's not quite going in the direction that you'd hoped it was going. This is very normal, and it's very normal for everyone working today. Everyone is taking their time to work out, where do I go next? What's my next move? And sometimes that will work out, and sometimes it will not. But having said that, here's my 5-point plan that I think might help you to make your first move into management. These are simple things, but I think they're very effective. And the first of these, tell your manager. Be really explicit that this is what you want to do. So first of all, I recommend asking for a career conversation. And if this is something that is not normal in your organization, that you take time aside from your day-to-day job to think and talk about your career, then explicitly ask your manager, I would like to spend some time talking about my career with you. And if you don't know how to structure that conversation, then just do a quick search on Google for rework Google career conversation. And you'll find on the Google Rework site, we've published some templates that allow you to have this career conversation. In this career conversation, be explicit and say, I would really like to be a leader in this organization, and I would like you to help me to do that. I want to talk to you about where you think I could be a really effective manager, and I'd like to talk to you about a realistic timeline and a realistic plan for getting me there. Be really explicit with your manager that this is what you want. Now, I did this when I first joined Google, and I was working with a lady named Nina. And I said to Nina, I'd love to manage this team one day. And she said, I absolutely see that that's something that's possible for you, Selena. You're not there right now. Ooh, bit of kick in the teeth. But that was the reality. That was the truth. She gave me a hard truth there. But I think that together we can get there. And this brings me to my next point. Ask for stretch assignments. So the stretch assignment is really something that's going to take you above and beyond your current role. It's going to take you above and beyond probably your comfort zone, and it's going to put you in a position where you can learn and where you can demonstrate even before you get into that manager interview, that you have the capability to be a manager or a leader in your organization. So you might be thinking, okay, what could I ask for? What are possible stretch assignments that I might chat with my manager about? So I wanted to share some examples of things that I've seen be really successful, that I used and that people in my team have used. So first of all, if you're in a tech role, for example, or in an internal facing role, maybe ask for the opportunity to go and deliver a presentation to a client or someone outside of your organization. This gives you the experience of understanding what is it that our customers want from us? What is it that people outside of my team want from us? What is it that we as a business are offering as a whole, and allows you to get a different perspective of your organization? Perhaps, for example, you know that there's an upcoming change in your organization that's going to affect your team and maybe a team that works alongside you. Could you put your hand up and say, actually, I think I'm going to be impacted by this. I think our team is going to be impacted by this. And I'm happy to own the comms plan to help explain to people what the impact will look like and to help manage people and lead people through that change, thereby showing that you are being a leader while still being an individual contributor in your team. Do you recognize that there's a lot of toil in the team or busy work that people are having to repeatedly do? And could you look at maybe automating that task, showing that you can see inefficiencies in your business and deliver more efficiencies by automating some tasks? Or perhaps you see that there's a difficult problem across multiple teams within the organization or within your team. Could you lead a task force, ideally a cross-functional task force that exposes you to other teams to solve that difficult problem? Or finally, are there, for example, quarterly strategy setting sessions within your organization? Are you in engineering and you work closely with product management, for example, but you're not in the product management roadmap setting sessions that happen quarterly or monthly or however often they happen? Could you ask to participate in that strategy setting, bring a different perspective into the room, and at the same time learn from others who are in these conversations and are talking about the business at a team level rather than at an individual level? Third, I recommend that you find a mentor. And ideally, the mentor is someone in your company who has done this before. And most ideally, they've done it relatively recently, so you can draw on their recent experience. Now, the thing with mentorship is that sometimes people, they really don't know when you say, hey, will you be my mentor? They're kind of like, oh, I don't really know what you want from me. I'm not really sure I'll be a very good mentor. So my advice is to be really explicit in your ask to this mentor. Identify the person and then go to them and say, I'm interested in becoming a manager in whichever team it is, in whatever timeline you've agreed with your manager, because I feel like that's the next step in my career. Would you be able to share your experience with me? Now, this makes it really easy for the mentor to say, yeah, actually, I have done that, and I have done that recently. And yeah, I'd be more than willing to share that experience from you, with you. And when you're talking with this mentor, what you really want to find is what worked really well for them and what are the things they didn't do that they wish they had done. Or perhaps what are the things they did do that they wish they hadn't done. Draw on others' experiences to make sure that you make this the easiest ride you can for yourself. So we've told our manager, we've asked for a stretch assignment that proves to people in the business that you are capable of doing this, and we've found a mentor that's going to help us to do this. What do we do next? Now we have to tell even more people that this is what we want to do. So there are different ways of going about this, and I have seen people at Google and elsewhere set up meetings with everyone in the organization to say, hey, I want to be a manager. I'm really ambitious and I want to be a leader. Honestly, I'm not sure that that's the most effective way to go about this, because I think people are like, okay, that's fine. How do I help you? How do I know that you're good? How do I know that you're going to be a great leader? Why should I make doors open for you? So I think a more effective way to find more people to tell is to think a little bit more about sponsorship. Now, you might have heard about mentorship and sponsorship in the past, but just in case you haven't, then I'll recap. So a mentor is really someone who's going to work directly with you, and they're going to advise you on the explicit thing that you want to do. So we spoke, for example, about saying to a mentor, you've just become a manager in this business. I'd like to know how you went about doing that, and I'd like you to give me some advice. A sponsor, however, is someone who's going to open those doors and make those opportunities appear for you. Most importantly, the sponsor is someone who's talking about you in rooms where you are not present. So here's an example. Your team is growing. The team is becoming so large that one manager can't look after that team any longer, and there's going to need to be a second manager. There will undoubtedly be conversations going on that you're not involved in, where people start to talk about, okay, who's going to manage this team as it grows? Do we have any internal candidates that we think might be ready for this role? And you want your name to be on everyone's lips when you're in that conversation. So how do we go about doing it? Well, first of all, you want to use those stretch opportunities and those projects that you've been involved in that we spoke about to really highlight that you are very capable of leading teams of people. Now, okay, in those stretch opportunity examples, that's not direct people management or direct leadership. It's more about showing how can I be influential without even being in a leadership position? How do I lead and guide and coach others without even being a manager? And this helps people to really notice you in the organization. Your manager's peers start to notice the work that you're doing. For example, your manager's manager notices the work that you're doing. And ideally, cross-functional managers also notice. So for example, if you're in a tech delivery role, maybe product management notice the work that you're doing, or maybe even the sales team notices the work that you're doing. Your name gets known around the business as being someone who's a real go-getter, an influencer, and a coach of people, and that is fixing business problems that were particularly difficult to fix before. In doing so, you can start to have conversations with those people. You'll form relationships with them, and you can start to say, actually, I'm really enjoying doing this. I really think management or leadership might be something that's next in my career. And by having that easy, kind of open but not forced conversation, people start to really notice you. They start to hear your name pop up in different areas. And when that meeting happens between closed doors that says, hey, do we have anyone internally that might be capable of doing this role? Your name is top of that list. And finally, the fifth thing, I already mentioned when we talked about stretch assignments, but it's really about demonstrating the behaviors even before you become a manager. So first of all, you need to do your job really well. This is absolutely fundamental. We cannot become managers or we cannot become leaders just by saying, hey, I'd really love to be a leader, but actually really forgetting that your job today is the important thing. So first of all, you have to excel at the job that you're doing right now. Ideally become a domain SME, a subject matter expert, the go-to person that people come to with questions, with advice, when they want advice, when they're looking for answers to difficult problems. You are the go-to person. And then ideally, once you've really cracked that and you've become the domain SME, you want to show others around you how to do the job just as well as you can. Also known as being a coach of people. Now, there is a fear that when we get really good at what we do, we want to hold on to that and we want to say, oh, but I've got all the wisdom and I've got all the power. The danger in doing that is you become so important in your current role, it's actually really difficult for people to move you out of your current role because the gap you leave behind is so large. However, if you spend time upskilling others around you, others in your team, getting them to a level where they are as good as you are, it actually creates space for them to move up in the team and for you to move out into another role without there being too much of a business gap or without there being too much disruption within the team. So you want to be thinking as you develop in the organization, who am I pulling up behind me? Who am I coaching and mentoring and making sure that they can fill my role so that you can be moved off into another role within your organization? And the third thing is you want to change your mindset a little bit. So you're no longer just focused on how do I excel in my role, but understanding your business. What is it that delivers our business goals? What is it that our team what are our objectives? What is it that we're focusing on? What is it that our business is focusing on? How am I being measured? How is my team being measured? How is our business being measured? So you stop thinking about just your role at the individual level. What is it that I need to do tomorrow, the next day, within the next quarter? And you start to think, what is it that our team is going to achieve? And in starting to think like that, then you start to learn the language of managers. You start to learn why managers are making certain decisions, the difficult decisions that managers need to make on a daily basis. And just like with the stretch assignment, you start to demonstrate these behaviors even before you're in the room having the interview, talking about becoming a manager in your organization. I think if you take these 5 steps, then you're setting yourself up in terms of becoming a manager in your organization. But what else could help you? So there's 3 external resources that I would really recommend when you start thinking about, I want to move from being an individual contributor to being a leader in my organization. The first of these is a workshop that was actually created by Google, and you can find it at iamremarkable.withgoogle.com. It's now externalized, and perhaps some of you have already done the workshop. It's called I Am Remarkable. I'm Remarkable is a workshop that teaches people how to self-advocate, self-promote, and speak about their accomplishments. This is a really important skill if you're going to demonstrate to your manager and those around your manager that you are capable of becoming a leader in your organization. I really recommend taking a look at the website and seeing if there's a session available that you can join so that you can start to learn this skill of self-advocacy as well. The second thing was actually shared with me by a colleague when I returned to work from my maternity leave. And she shared with me specifically the episode that was on working mothers returning to work during lockdown, which clearly brings its own challenges that mothers before have not experienced. And it's the HBR Women at Work podcast. And after listening to that podcast, that episode, I was really hooked on the whole series. And I think there's really great content in these podcasts. I would recommend pulling a few out and having a listen to them. There's some on communication style, there's some on couples that work, how do you work alongside your partner to forge joint careers where both of you can succeed. There are others on how to be a working mum, etc. It covers theory, as you would expect from HBR, but also personal experience and conversation from the women in the podcast talking about their experiences. And I've personally learned a lot from listening to these episodes. The final thing I'd recommend is a book, and it's the book Lean In by Sheryl Sandberg. Now, I recognize the book is a little bit Marmite. People love it or they hate it. Personally, the concept of leaning in has been really important for me in my career, and I would advocate others to consider using the lean in concept. What Sheryl Sandberg says is that women in particular can tend to lean out of the workforce even before they need to. So to give you a specific example, women who are considering starting a family might already change the way that they're thinking about their career. So for example, a year before you start having a family, you might start to think, oh, well, I'm getting married now. I'm not going to travel as much. I'm not going to push myself forward for that role. I'm not going to take that stretch opportunity. And in doing so, actually, we set ourselves back further than we would if we just leaned right in until the moment where we're having our baby. And this rang no more true for me than when the day before I had my baby, I actually had my interview for my current role. And it wasn't that I was working right up to the minute where I had my baby and I was pushing and pushing and pushing. No, it was that I'd had this career conversation with my manager. I'd been explicit that I was already in a management role, but I was looking for a permanent role within the organization in the UK. I'd been working in another country for a while. And he knew that I was looking for this role. He also knew I was pregnant, but that didn't stop him from recommending me for a role that came up in London. And Google went out of their way to make that interview happen for me before I went on my maternity leave. Just so happened it ended up being the day before I had my baby. But the concept is the same. I leant right in and I never stepped back, even though I knew that the baby was coming. And the way that worked out actually was that they put the role on pause for me and they waited for me to return 10 months later into the role. So I really love this concept. I've seen it work really successfully for me and for others in my organization who have been able to plan around the natural occurrences of being a woman, like needing to take time out of the business to have a baby, but also be able to forge a career alongside. So to recap, the 5 steps that I really recommend. 1, tell people that you want to be a manager. It sounds simple, but unless people know, they can't help you. And we miss out on that sponsorship element of people talking about you in rooms where you are not present and identifying you as someone who could be a leader in the business. Number 2, ask for stretch assignments. Prepare yourself for this role even before you're in the role. Demonstrate your capabilities to those around you so it makes it much easier for them to say, yes, this person will make a great manager in our business. Number 3, learn from someone else who's done it before. Find a mentor who can help you. Number 4, tell even more people, enable that sponsorship to happen, and ideally do that through working relationships that you build with them through the stretch assignments that you choose. And finally, demonstrate those behaviors. Act like an owner of the team or of the organization, even before you're in that management position. And then all there really is to do is to sit back, wait for the opportunity to arise, and wait to be tapped on the shoulder and say, hey, there's a manager role coming up and we thought you might like to apply. Thanks so much for your time today. I really appreciate it. And if there's any questions, then I'm very happy to answer them now.
Thank you. Again, I'm going to count us down and we're going to unmute and give Selena a round of applause. Are you ready? 3, 2, 1, unmute. Thank you so much, Selena. We have time for a couple questions before we went into workshops. Does anyone have a question for Selena?
I would like to ask something. So I'm a data scientist. So a typical day in my life is programming and talking to the testers and reviewing other programmers' work and all that. But I often find myself in a very stressful situation, especially when I do something wrong. Because I have a lot of men working in my team, but when they do when they mistake, they easily handle it and they say, well, it happens, let's just get past this and see how to solve this. Whereas if I do something, I get stuck in that emotional state, and I bog myself down, like, I shouldn't have done this, I should have been more careful, it's my mistake. So have you ever faced such situations in your career, and how do you deal with that?
Yeah, I think really what you're saying is you care so much about your job, right? That when you make a mistake, you can't separate yourself from the thing. And I have this a lot as well. I find it also very hard being a people manager, that if people come to me, right now, it's a difficult time working from home and people say, I'm really struggling with my well-being. I really take this on myself and think, oh, what can I do, But I think the important thing here is trying to detach yourself from the work, right? So I saw the end of Svetlana's presentation, and though it seems really separate, things like mindfulness, having hobbies, doing something that takes you out of the working situation is really important, and is really important right now, so that you can try to compartmentalize, right? This is my work, and okay, I made a mistake, but it wasn't my fault. I didn't mean to do it. It's happened and I'm going to move on from it. And the only way really that you can do that is you have something else to focus on. And this is something I've noticed during my career, right? The very most senior people in every organization always seem to have some other kind of side obsession that they do, right? Like they run ultra marathons, or they're like really professional mountain bikers that are like once performed in the Olympics or something. And I think the reason for this, I've kind of worked out, is because they need some way to totally detach themselves from their work, right? Otherwise, you can let it eat you up and you can kind of obsess over things that you didn't mean to do. So my advice is actually not really about work at all. It's about finding something in your personal life that allows you to totally detach yourself from those situations, so that when mistakes happen, and they will happen, you are able to be more pragmatic and say, okay, that happened, but now I'm going to focus on this thing, and this we'll come back to it tomorrow. It's not an issue right now, and allow you just to move on from it rather than fester on it.
All right. Thank you so much.
Okay.
Awesome. And we have time for one more question.
Selena. I do have a question about your 5-step plan to move up in the career ladder. In a scenario where you are following these 5 steps and doing all those self-efficacy work, how about when there's someone in your team with the same capabilities and also following the 5-step? How do you set yourself out for the competition?
Yeah, this is a great question. And actually, the first time I went for a manager role at Google, I didn't get it and my peer got it. And it really crushed me, right? I was like, why do they think this guy's better than I am? And so I think there's two things. The one is don't be distracted by what they're doing, right? It's totally okay for both of you to be going for the same goals. And there is space in the organization at some time for both of you to get there. So, just work on being the best that you can be and don't be distracted by what others are doing. Just accept that, of course, there are other ambitious people. And actually, that's a good thing because they spur you on, right, to be better and be a better version of yourself. And then the other thing I would say is don't be too disheartened if you don't get it the first time. So in my scenario, he got it. I was, pretty upset about that. But actually what happened then is my manager had moved on to another role and she was going on maternity leave. And she came to me only 6 weeks later and said, actually, Selena, if you're willing to come and work in Sweden, I've got a role for you in Sweden. And I was like, wow, this is even better than the role that I was initially going for. So I think it's, just accepting that this will happen in your career, but it doesn't mean that was the one and only opportunity. Other opportunities will come.
It's a really great way to put it, that there's space for all of us in an organization to grow together. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for your questions, everyone. And thank you, Selena, for your time and your expertise. We appreciate you coming to be a keynote today.
Thank you very much. I'm afraid I have to go because I'm on daughter duty today, but it's been lovely to be here.
Thank you so much. Have a great day. Bye. Awesome. Okay, everyone. So we are on to workshops. I'm just going to share my screen just before you hop in. If you haven't done so already, make sure you choose the workshop you'd like to attend in the next session. So there's 3 that you can attend. We have Rose Hastreiter in Virtual Room 1 talking about what time is it? Yours, which is time management. We have Tanya Chapman in Virtual Room number 2 talking about defining your success, goal setting, and leadership. And Terry Ann Richards in Virtual Room number 3, building your personal brand. So again, you have to RSVP for the room you'd like to attend. The link that Shaima will repaste again into the group chat is here for you. If you scroll down, just make sure you choose which room you'd like to attend for workshop 1, 2, and 3. Underneath, it shares everyone's information on the stage, so you can see room 1, 2, and 3. Click the link you'd like to attend, join the room as you did to join here, and when you are done for lunch, after lunch, this room will be open the whole time, but we will resume back in this main stage event room, if that makes sense for everyone. Is that good? All right, I'll let you all run. You can choose which workshop you'd like to attend, and we will see you all soon. See you there.
Can I have a quick question to make sure I don't leave like the whole event? So I have an option on the bottom right of the screen that says leave with the red phone, leave event. Should I press that?
Yeah, so it would help just to leave the event. Yep, you'll close out of here. Just when you come back, use the same link that you did to get in here.
If you don't need to leave, like you will find the icon video up there, like it will just be muted here and open the other one in a new tab, and the other one will be fine with you, but one of them will open the video and the audio. So if you need to close it, you can join again. If you don't need to lose the link, so just keep it in the tab and it will be muted.
Okay, gotcha.
Awesome. And if anyone else is having any troubles, please feel free to unmute and ask. Otherwise, you're free to go on to your next session.